Welcome to the Executive Exchange. With me, your host, George Gutierrez from the BMAP Group, where we do, in fact, partner with individuals and organizations to drive growth. Today, I'm very excited to have a brand new chief executive within our midst. Please welcome Colin J Mason, as he would prefer to go professional. Colin J Mason is a local professional, and he owns Mirandum Pictures, and he believes in creativity with an impact. So let's take a few minutes and get to know Colin. Colin, why don't you tell us about yourself and what you do?
Well, thanks, George. It's great to be here. I started this company. Actually, this is our 10-year anniversary being in business. We just actually released a video celebrating kind of where we started and where we ended up. But essentially what we try to do is create video that actually does what it's supposed to do, but it kind of provides a more, I guess you could say, beautiful aesthetic, a kind of cinema aesthetic. And a lot of people go around saying that they provide cinema quality video, but we like to think that we actually do. So that's kind of our claim to fame, and it's kept us in business in the Valley for 10 years.
All right. So where is the main work? Where is the main sausage gets processed at?
The sausage. We've been essentially specializing in nonprofits and kind of message-oriented people, because you can make a commercial for Dodge or Chevy, and I'm not knocking those brands, but I would love to have them as clients. But we kind of specialize in people who have more of a message. Which is like, if you're trying to do something with a purpose, and that's more generally suited to nonprofits, as we've found. Nonprofits tend to be people who do things for a cause or a reason, and so that's easier for us to create into a narrative, and create into a storyline, and kind of project that. And that's kind of where the strength in our video production is creating a story and telling a story.
All right, that's excellent. So can you point out to anything in terms of, where you've done some of this work at? I mean, is it in the Winchester area?
We have done work, I think, in 15 countries all around the world now. We actually are kind of sought after for our storytelling, and with the age of the internet, it's actually a lot of times it makes sense to bring someone who can get the job done right, rather than focus exclusively on someone who's local. So we end up doing a lot of work, not only all over the U.S., but in England, usually about twice a year as well. Excuse me. And I've also traveled extensively in South America and Southeast Asia to do work there as well.
Okay, so here's one of those questions that you're not ready for.
Okay.
Because with the advent of the internet, obviously, and the importance and relevance of marketing, for new emerging companies, even the old companies, especially for the small business owner that doesn't necessarily have the deep pockets, to bring a company like yours into a video. Mm-hmm. We now have YouTube. Mm-hmm. So how do you see YouTube in the marketplace? Do you use YouTube? Is that something that you incorporate?
Yeah, we have this old joke that we wanted to make movies for a living, and then the internet got invented, and then suddenly we had a job. It's almost literally true. But basically, YouTube came into being around 2005, and that's when we started really seeing our work become relevant, because what we were doing was essentially providing video for people almost exclusively for the internet. We do commercials and music videos now still for television and for movie theaters and things like that. But our primary kind of mode of delivery is the internet. And even when it's on TV nowadays, we're doing stuff for the internet that is then being ported to TV. It's then being ported to other media as well. So the internet is really kind of, like you said before, the sausage. It's the meat. It's the meat and potatoes of what we do, and we wouldn't have a job if we didn't have the internet.
Okay. So, is there a place that you can share an internet location, URL, a website or what have you, that the listening audience can go to and see your work?
Yeah, our work is on mirandumpictures.com. That's MIRANDUM pictures.com. And we have like a nice portfolio that's right in the front, and it makes it really easy for you to kind of get a taste of what our work looks like, and kind of what the vibe is generally of who we are. We're also actually we're creating a feature film And if you want updates on that, you can get that at our website as well.
That's excellent. And earlier when you and I were talking prior to the show, I mean, I honestly had to say I have not been to the site because I'm fairly occupied otherwise. But I've had someone that knows you and is very close to your work actually share 2 of your videos with me. And I know he uses one. I know you produced one for his company sometime back. And you're right. It tells a very good story. And there's a sequence. There's a logic. There's a way of engaging with the viewer, etc. And it didn't feel like it was a commercial. It felt like it was just a story that was being told about something.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because that's essentially, if you had to have a long form of what our brand was, it doesn't feel like a commercial. I kind of liked it. If you put that in quotes, I would accept that as like a tagline for what we do. But essentially, we want everything that we do to feel like a narrative. We want it to feel like a story where you're like, what's going to happen next, no matter what it is about. And that's kind of what we bring. That's kind of our secret sauce that we bring to the table.
Well, I really appreciate that because I look at things critically from, from a marketing perspective in terms of the message. And what you do, I think, is probably one of the most difficult things that is done today in the marketplace when it comes to communicating ideas as opposed to selling a product. So the other video that I was forced to watch, frankly, also impacted me very positively. And then here's what happened. Once I started looking at it, then I couldn't take my eyes off of it because it started with a little girl, and then there's
I know what you're talking about.
So that as I listened to the story, it connected with me emotionally.
And I think what you're referring to is a commercial that we just did for the United Way in Front Royal Warren County.
Oh, okay.
It's the little girl who finds magic glasses, and they show her what
that's
everyone's
the one.
problem is.
That's exactly the one.
Basically, it's interesting because that's one of our oldest clients. I think that we've been working for the first 7 years. I want to say, I'm not entirely sure, so don't quote me on that, even though we're on the radio right now. But we started off, it was a long time ago, and we started, taking interviews with people and cutting them together. And I don't want to knock interviews with people because a lot of times that's an amazing thing. But we found that the message is much more effectively told if you can create a story that illustrates it, like a parable almost. And so that's kind of what we ended up starting to do for them. And we saw the effectiveness of that advertising just jump through the roof. People really started engaging. And like you said, you were forced to watch it, but once you started watching it, it engaged you. You connected with it, and you like you kindly said, you weren't able to take your eyes off it, which is a compliment, and I appreciate that.
Well, no, and so I was just describing to you a feeling that I had that was genuine to me, and again, even though I am sort of a trained observer, and I know what I'm looking for, it took me away from the mechanics of critical thinking because it truly, and you used the perfect word, I was engaged in the entire experience. So it had my eyes, it had my mind, and it had my heart. And as the story continued to evolve, the interest was piqued. And then, if you would, towards the end, there was a final impact that said, and this is what we did. So I walked away feeling good about an organization. In this case, happens to be a nonprofit organization.
And that's the case a lot of times.
Yeah, that actually did something for the community. So that was fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, so earlier you described that you've been in business in one form or another for the last 10 years. So can you select one or two salient experiences that you would like to share with emerging new businesses, things that you went through that literally helped you, to make it or to continue to the process of not giving up, if you would?
I can. I want to think about what language I can use on the radio because we can be a little salty. We do. My main I guess gift of experience to people is I don't give up. I don't like to say don't give up because that's boring. It sounds boring. But essentially, with something like this, there is a 10,000 hour mark there's that saying where if you put it, you have to put in 10,000 hours in order to become truly proficient at something. And I would never say that I've become, quote unquote, truly proficient in something, but there's a certain level, a quality gap that you have to close in order to do something like that. And there's something like this. And the only way to do that is by working consistently. And you have to put in a lot of elbow grease. So my advice or my gift to people is don't be afraid to get up in front of other people and stink at something. Like, I think that that's essentially what has gotten me to where I am today, where you just don't be too precious, where you can't stand up and just be bad at something in front of other people. Take the hits, take the criticism, be humble, move forward, learn from your mistakes, and get better. Because that's the only way. We have this idea that artists are people who roll out of bed and we have like this inspiration from God and we sort of go out and that's just not, I mean, it's just like carpentry or mechanics or anything else. You have to just work at it and be terrible at it and get slowly better. So that would be my advice.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, it's not a cliche, but I hear it all the time. It doesn't matter whether it comes from a thought leader, that's 100 years old and, been doing this and writing books all of their lives, or if it comes from an old veteran that's just been there, done that, and been through all kinds of hardships, or if it comes from Colin J Mason, who is a guy that, it's one of our local business leaders in the community with experiences worldwide in the video industry, an artist, if you would. I just like to hear it because it just reinforces the belief that many of us have come to grow up into, and that is if you work hard and then you do the best that you can, even when you fail, it's part of the learning process that will get you to the next level.
Yeah, and if I could close with an Adam Savage quote where he says, "Failure is always an option." That's kind of my life mantra in a lot of ways. Failure is part of learning. So failure, if you shouldn't be afraid of failure. It's not that you shouldn't be afraid of it. You should embrace it. You should, like, failing and like I said, just stinking at something repeatedly is the only way you're going to learn and move forward.
Okay, so let's kind of spend a few minutes on this because I have two grown children, probably your age, and I remember the conversations we had growing up to where they use failure as something they would plan for, and I would say, no, we're not going to plan for failure. We plan for success. We do our best. We just don't allow failure to set us back.
Yes.
Failure becomes part of the experience that goes back to that level of proficiency that you were talking about earlier. Those 10,000 hours that you have to put into something.
Yeah.
In order for you to truly become. And I hate to use an expert, but become sort of a subject matter expert on a given field.
We like to talk about, in my studio, we talk about a membrane that you have to get through. And that's kind of how we, because you're never really an expert. You want to always be getting better and and honing your craft. But we feel like the 10,000 hours is like the threshold. It's like the amount of blood that you have to let out of your arm into the project and into the work in order to really kind of earn your ability to actually proficiently navigate what you're doing.
Yeah. All right, so let's take a look at community, since you brought up this nonprofit world that we all sort of navigate through. What other organizations have you been able to help in a way that adds value to the community?
I'd have to think about that.
But so I guess what I'm getting to, since we've talked about nonprofits,
right?
I mean, what if I am a for-profit organization that needs my story told? I mean, can I come to you and?
Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of work for-profits, and I don't like to alienate them by just talking about nonprofits. But what I do like to focus on is that we do tend to do work that focuses on a story. So we do try to find the story in what it is that you do, and we try to broadcast that through our work. And I'm just saying the reason why we've done a lot of work for nonprofits is because a lot of times it's a little easier to find that story, and so they tend to connect with us. And they also tend to see the value in our particular style a little more readily sometimes than for-profits do. So, but we do a lot of work for profits. Nonprofits have just found us and made a home with us more readily.
All right, so take a minute and tell us where to go to see your work.
Go to mirandumpictures.com. That's MIRANDUM pictures.com. MIRANDUM pictures.com. And there's a lot of stuff you can see there. And also you can find out about our motion picture that we're looking at.
All right, thank you to Colin Mason from Miranda Pictures, where creativity with impact is the way that things are done. I'm signing off from the Executive Exchange. Your host, George Gutierrez from the BMAC Group, where we do, in fact, partner with individuals and organizations to drive growth. We'll talk to you again next Saturday.